Hi guys, we're going to tackle the following problems together. There are exactly three problems that we're going to be reviewing in this video. Before we get started, please note the disclaimer listed below. Okay, so in this problem, this shows an example of a type of problem that you're expected to know a lot of formulas, and you're not giving them in the formula sheet. With this problem, they also give you a shape, but they don't actually give you the physical shape to view. So you're expected to understand that they tell you that there is a circle, and the circle has a diameter with following endpoints. So they let you know that the diameter, which is end to end, has a point here and a point here. They go ahead and let you know the 2 points are 2 comma -1 and 10 comma 5. They want you to know that there's a point 6 comma b, and it's not the midpoint. It's just somewhere arbitrarily that lies on the circle. So just to note, it's going to be anywhere on this circle, and we're expected to figure out where that's going to be. So the first thing that we need to note is we have to go ahead and figure out this midpoint, this center point in here. So to go ahead and do that, we need to remember the midpoint formula. And if you remember, the midpoint formula is taking all the x points and dividing it by 2 and all the y points and dividing it by 2. So in this case, I have a one x point here and another x point here. And then I have a y point here and then a y point here. So I'm going to go ahead and solve by averaging those points. That's a quicker way to think about it rather than memorizing the formula. You want to think about it as you're taking your x1 and then your x2 and you're taking the average of them. So you're just going to go ahead and divide that by 2. That's going to give you 6. You go ahead and take the midpoint of these 2 points, the two y's, and I have -1 plus 5 divided by 2, and that's going to give you 2. So essentially our center will be 6 comma 2. And this is important to note because if our center is 6 comma 2, we know that the point that is on the circle is going to be basically either on this end or this end, right? So it's going to be in the endpoints of that midpoint, essentially. So we have to figure out the radius. And remember, the radius is the halfway point. And this will allow us to find the distance from the middle to the end. To do so, I have to take the center, that's 6 comma 2, and then find the distance from that from one of the points. So I'm going to choose 2 comma -1 here. To go ahead and do that, remember the distance formula. I'm going to take the square root of the idea of 6, because it's my center. So let me go ahead and make sure that I have a different color here. So I have the square root. Now remember, this is my distance formula. I'm going to take the 6 from the center, that's my x1, minus my x2, which is the first point, which is 2, square that, plus my y2, which is going to be my 2 from the center, minus my y1, which is my -1 from that first point, and square that. I can plug that into a graphing calculator or just solve using Desmos to give you the answer 5. So essentially, I know that one of the distance is 5. So meaning there are 5 places from here to here and 5 spaces from here to here. Because the radius is going to be the same on this side as it is this side. Now that I know that, I'm going to go ahead and utilize my formula of a circle to go ahead and plug that in. So essentially, we have x, I'm going to use a different color here, x minus 6 because that is my center squared. So x minus my points are what I'm plugging in. So I put the 6 here, parentheses y minus what's my y point? That's going to be 2 squared. And I'm taking the center, that's um the point. So just to recap, h comma k is your center, and the formula of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, r being the radius. And this is another formula that you're expected to know, making this problem very difficult if you don't have the midpoint formula, the distance formula, and the formula of a circle. So you will need to know that for the test. It's not something you can find really on Desmos. You can look it up, but it's something that you will need that knowledge. It's helpful to have that knowledge. So then we have the radius essentially. And the radius, remember, is 5. But remember, we're squaring it based on the formula. So it's 5 squared. So 5 squared, if you plug into Desmos, is going to give you 25. Now, we know that we have to solve for b. Now, because we have this formula here, we can go ahead and say that we have the x and the y of the point that is missing, and we could replace it, making this x and making this y. So I'm going to go ahead and use a different color and just replace it directly in here and say that this is going to be 6, and then this is going to be my b, right? So you could plug this straight into Desmos and solve for the value of b. And when you do that, you're going to get the final answer. But let's take a look at this and see how we're going to do this. So essentially, we're going to simplify this, and this is going to be 0, right? Because 6 minus 6 is 0. And then we're left, if we go ahead and do this a long way, I'm going to use a different color here. And I have b minus 2, b minus 2 squared is 25. Take the square roots of both sides. Remember, square root is plus or minus, right? So it's plus or minus 5 is b minus 2. Remember, we could plug this into Desmos and immediately solve. But I have b minus 2 equals plus 5 and b minus 2 equals minus 5. So you could plug that both into Desmos if you want to practice, just so you get an idea. I always say practice with and without Desmos, so that way, in case you get a problem that you don't have enough time to do Desmos, you can go ahead and do so. So you have b minus 2 equals positive 5 and b plus 2 equals, or sorry, not b plus 2, b minus 2 is equal to negative 5. So we have b minus 2 is positive 5 and b minus 2 is negative 5. You go ahead and solve, and you will get the values of 7 and negative 3. And if you have a multiple choice problem, you know one of them could be the possible choice. But because it's an open-ended question, students can make an incorrect choice by selecting negative 3. Remember, b is greater than 0. And you also know this because distance, you can't have a negative distance or a negative value when it comes to like distance or locations or steps. So that's another hint for you. And in this case, then the value is going to be 7 as the correct answer. Let's take a look at a problem like this, which focuses on trigonometry. Take a moment, pause the video if you need to do so, and see if you could tackle this problem yourself. Okay, let's try to review some things together. So in this problem, they let us know a couple of things. One, they let us know that the cosine of C is equal to the sine of D. So they went ahead and identified this information for acute angles, and they let us know that the degrees are for C and D are listed as above. So what that also means is we also understand based on trigonomic identities that cosine of C plus sine of CD is going to be equivalent to something. Can you guess what it's going to be? Well, the cosine of C plus the sine of D is going to be equivalent to what we say 90 degrees. And because of this, we can go ahead and say that the appropriate degree measurements can be plugged in directly into this equation. So we can go ahead and substitute 3x plus 5 plus 65 minus x equals 90. Of course, we could plug this straight into Desmos and solve directly with that, or we can simplify this and say that this is 70, and these two are 2x. So we have 2x plus 70 equals 90. Bring over the 70 over to the other side by subtracting. And then we get 2x equals 20. Divide both sides by 2 to let the variable sit by itself. And we get the value of 10. So essentially, the final answer is 10. Let's try to tackle the following problem together. First of all, they let us know that there is a set period of time, and they want to know basically in this problem which one represents P of W, which is, in other words, the birds that are still needed. So they want to know the leftover period of birds over a period of time. That's what PW represents. They let us know that they're first observing 120 birds. So off the bat, we have this 120 birds, and they let us know in the first 5 weeks we have a certain range, and then after those 5 weeks, there's a certain range of where the population goes. So in the first 5 weeks, we have 120 plus we're increasing our population by 15 birds per week. W is our representation of weeks, so we have W here, and we can say 15 times W. In this case, we know the W is 5, so I'm going to replace that with 15 times 5. I can go ahead and plug this into Desmos and or your calculator and obtain 195 birds, and that's for the first 5 weeks. Let's take a look at the latter 5 weeks where it's greater than 5. In this portion, you end up having starting point of 195 birds because remember, we're still bringing over the 195 birds because we're still growing. We still have the 5 weeks and we have to worry about the population afterwards. So we're going to add the 195 to our week 5 and greater population, which is 30 birds per week. So 30 birds per week. However, we want to make sure that we're saying 30 birds per week minus the birds that were previously accounted for in those first 5 weeks, right? So it's whatever the weeks are minus the original 5 weeks. We can simplify this together, or we can go ahead and understand that this total needs to be subtracted from the 500 birds because that's our goal. So we have our goal of 500 and we want to account for that change within this period of time. We can go ahead and simplify this by distributing the negative sign here, but I'm going to start within the parentheses, right? So I have to go ahead and distribute this. So it's 30W minus 30 times 5, which is 195. and 50. I forgot to bring down the W here. So we have 30W minus 150. Now I'm going to bring that 195 over and bring down my negative sign as well. The reason why I did this is because the incorrect answer is also here as well, where I'm pretty sure people forgot to distribute that negative sign, and then it caused issues in the calculation. So I'm just doing it to represent what the issue was. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute that negative sign there. I bring down my 500, negative 195 minus 30W plus my 150 here. I could plug this into Desmos, and when you do calculate the digits 500 minus 195 plus 150, you'll attain 455 minus 30W. So the correct answer will be C. Hey, Geeking Out on STEM family, guess what? We want you to hit that subscribe button. Why? Because we'll be producing more content just like this for the AP Biology exam and the new digital SAT exam. By subscribing, you'll be getting exclusive, up-to-date tips, tricks, and secrets for both exams. Also, if you're a parent, a teacher, a homeschool instructor, or a student, you might be looking for affordable and exclusive digital products to help improve multiple choice questions, free response questions, or question bank questions related to both the digital SAT or AP Biology exam. We have them here. Make sure to check out our link tree in our bio for curated resources that you won't find anywhere else. These unique resources are designed to help you raise your score. By hitting the subscribe button, the more subscribers we get, by the way, the more videos we can make. So make sure to join our family to ensure that you get a perfect score for both exams.